Judge Nkosinathi Chili will hand down his ruling on two applications in the former President Jacob Zuma's arms deal corruption case on the 23rd of January next year. He has heard applications by Zuma and French arms company Thales for leave to appeal his refusal to quit them following the death of key witnesses. The state also asked the court to make an order that the trial will not be further delayed regardless of any further applications or appeals. Advocate Trengrove called it the state's Stop Stalingrad application, saying unsuccessful legal action has been used by the defense to avoid the case being heard. Well, former President Jacob Zuma has lost his bid to overturn a ruling that he pay back the 28.9 million rand legal fees incurred during his private litigation. Last month, the North Gauteng High Court in Pretoria ordered Zuma pay back the almost 29 million rand of state money used to fund his defense in his long-standing arms deal case. But this afternoon, Justice Anthony Miller ordered Zuma to pay back the money within 60 days or risk his assets, including his presidential pension, being seized. Now, the judgment follows years of litigation with both the Democratic Alliance and the Economic Freedom Fighters pushing for Zuma to pay back the money. Well, Zuma also refuses to appear before Justice Khampepe at the TRC inquiry, citing alleged bias. For more on this, let's now welcome and speak to political analyst Bongani Mahlangu. Bongani, a very good afternoon to you. Let's start with just the legal processes as we get your reaction to the latest ruling. Could this judgment and the fact that the court is now willing to attach pension or assets set a precedent for how future cases involving public funds and, in fact, former officials are handled? Just looking at that ruling from Justice Miller ordering the former president to pay back the money within 60 days or risk losing his assets.
Greetings, Unati, the colleagues in studio and the viewers at home. So besides who is involved, we have to look at case precedents, we have to look at case law. So in terms of case law, when it comes to administrative judgments such as this one, an attachment can be made for if the debtor in this case refuses to pay or maybe cannot pay within the acceptable amount of time and so forth and so on. So attachments can be made. And I think there is case law and precedents with regards to that. So I would not necessarily want to specify and say maybe it is a public official, politician, or whoever. That has been happening for a very long time. But in this case and context, it was also stated that the state attorney, which in this case and context acts as the creditor, must report to the court with regards to the steps that will be taken to enforce the judgment itself. So that provision as well means that the debtor in this case, which is the former president, can then engage with the state attorney and also the court with regards to a payment plan. But in this case, the debtor seemingly is still contesting the issue of paying. So that means that it will not happen now with regards to developing a payment plan, installments, and so forth, regardless in which way they choose to pay. So within the 60 days, it does not necessarily imply that he should have settled the 30 million within the 60 days or rounded off to 30 million within the 60 days. But a payment plan has to have been put together within that time frame. So if then he chooses to appeal, then obviously then it will put this judgment in abeyance. But if he chooses then to move with the judgment, then he will engage the creditor on how best to go about doing it. And as I said, even that as well, regarding the payment plan, there is precedence with that as well, in law and otherwise.
I want us to then turn our focus to what's happening in terms of the Khampepe Commission. We know now that the former president refusing to appear before Justice Khampepe at the TRC inquiry, citing alleged bias. So what do we read into this?
That one is very tricky, very, very tricky, because we obviously we have to then look into the case that he's making. Because remember, this commission, if you are called to a commission, as we would have learned, and with the same individual at the Zondo Commission, It's a summons, and you have to then appear. But then if you do not want to appear, you don't simply stay away. You then have to follow certain legal principles in order to ensure that you do not appear. And when you then go through that route, you have to make a strong case as to why you are refusing to appear, basically why you are refusing the summons. And to just argue that there is a speculation, or rather there is fear of biasness, whether it is real or perceived, it's something you will have to prove. So unfortunately, you can't just boycott. You'll have to make your case and the relevant platforms as to why you refuse to appear. And that relevant platform, obviously, maybe in a court of law or wherever else, then a judgment will then be made with regards to whatever case that you would have made. So it's quite interesting. We need to look into it when he makes the actual argument over and above that there is perception of bias. So he has to make the argument and give reasons and evidence with regards to that perception of bias. And we'll also, as the public as well, be awaiting to hear what the case will be, what the argument will be. So that's quite an interesting one.
And so when you look at it all, when you look at the latest legal defeat, now we're talking about this particular commission, what does this all mean? I mean, politically, how will the latest defeats compound questions just around his credibility, maybe even accountability as a political leader? And how does it also translate to the MK party itself and its support?
Well, again, this is something else that there is precedence of. I think when we go back to, I think as early as 2007, and now it's 2025, there has been court defeats. In fact, there's been more defeats than victories. But seemingly, every defeat generates a certain level of public sympathy, especially from the core supporters of the individual and also the organization he leads now, which is MKP, because it is seen as if the system is against him. It is seen as if these defeats are orchestrated because judges are not impartial. Judges have a vendetta. Judges are working with the system, in inverted commas, in order to frustrate, in order to prosecute and persecute the individual. So these defeats have shown to have a positive relation as far as electoral support is concerned. So I doubt even the latest defeat, even if he were to also contest the summons to the commission, if that were to not be upheld, it would translate to a loss of support, especially in the next 12 months when we go to the local government elections. So I would say there's no negative relationship between the two variables, be it court defeats and electoral support. In fact, there's a positive relationship because it generates public sympathy, which is then converted into electoral support. And it also puts the individual in the public eye. Like, for instance, we are engaging about the individual now. So that PR, it could be said to be negative, but it's PR nonetheless. So he's always in the psyche of the society or psyche of South Africans. They're always thinking about him. He's always in their discussions, in their table dinner discussions. So he's always relevant. He's always there. So that's what is then used to leverage in order to put together a solid political campaign or electoral campaign. So to answer it, I do not believe that these defeats will lead to any loss of support.
And is that equally true then when you consider what's been happening on the other front in terms of how his daughter was implicated in this Russia-Ukraine recruitment process, and there's now internal domestic investigations here, whilst also looking at those political dimensions happening, outside of South Africa's borders. Does that not impact then also just on the credibility of the party itself? Or as you are saying, that it just further puts sympathy right to the former president, Jacob Zuma?
Looking at how Zuma has handled the Sambudla Zuma issue, and I say Zuma, not necessarily the MKP, because it's his word that stands. Sambudla has been enjoying a lot of political immunity or protection within the organization. She has transgressed the constitution so violently that she should have been expelled a long time ago. But when it comes to this recruitment of mercenaries, we have heard the MK say that is her issue, and she has been literally kicked out of the organization. And the only person who is able to kick her out of the organization is her father, and her father has done so. So they said that is not an MK issue. That is not a Jacob Zuma issue. She has to deal with it herself. So now with that being said and done, it then says to, and what I'm seeing now, what they're developing is that the father can be decisive and objective when it comes to the daughter, as it is being demonstrated now. So there's now a change, or rather a management of the narrative, to say that is her issue, that is an individual issue, and she will deal with it individually, but we have removed her from the organization. The organization has nothing to do with the recruitment of mercenaries. So they have done well in terms of isolating the issue and isolating the individual who would have brought the issue. And we have seen now, in terms of what we read from papers and so forth, there has not been necessarily any negative reporting as far as MKP is concerned within the context of the mercenary recruitment program.
All right, Bongani, thank you so much for your analysis and your input. Really do appreciate it. Political analyst Bongani Mahlangu there for us. All right.